Hello, guys, and welcome back to another edition of the Rudy G Bets Inside the Lines podcast. We got college football week 10, NFL week 9. After 2 weeks off, we're back, and Dave's back. But Dave, how you feeling after quite a long break for you? I know life gets busy and things like that, but what's on your mind?
Yeah, that's what happens. To start the season, I was hot as heck on this show, lost a few games, so I decided to disappear for a month, come back, see if the mojo's still there. So I'll keep you guys on your toes, that's for sure.
John, how about you? Nice to have you on again, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on, guys. Good to see everybody. Yeah, I kind of went into hiding for a couple days after giving out my best bet on the Action Network at Miami minus 18.5, and they won in overtime. So that was a tough one, but get ready. I'm getting ready back in action this week. So
Yeah, it's been a while, but I'm excited to get back into things too. I think the NFL, the board this week isn't the easiest, but got some college picks to discuss as well, so be good to get into it.
Yeah, this is a pretty good week for college. I think one, betting wise, and two, just general matchups wise. We have a couple
great slate.
Good games, like a lot of double ranked games, and then just even some kind of rivalry games. So yeah, we'll start out. I'll go to Penn State and Maryland here. I think the lines kind of moved on this one since the opener. Yeah, it looks like Penn State's only favored by 8.5. I bet Maryland when it was 10. So I would probably still play it at 8.5. I'd just maybe play it a little bit less. And the total hasn't, which I bet I like under 50.5 as it currently stands more than the 8.5. Just because I think Penn State, you saw what happened against Ohio State, and their offense didn't move the ball really at all. They put up basically 6 points until the garbage time. Both these teams could get after the passer. Yeah, I think this is kind of a low scoring game. And, Penn State will probably win unless they're looking ahead to Michigan all the way. We'll see. I mean, last week against Indiana, that was pretty pathetic showing by Penn State. Sort of a dream crusher game, if you will. But I think this one's probably pretty sloppy as well. So, like I said, I had Maryland when it was 10.5. I would still probably play it over a touchdown, just lower your bet, and under 50.5 for me to start us off.
Yeah, I'll stay in the Big Ten for college. As the resident Penn State fan, can't fault a lot of what Rudy's saying. And if we had a pod last week and I was on, I would have been all over Indiana because Penn State is historically bad after their first loss of the season. Like they always slip up to that next game. One year they lost to Illinois at home. Like it's just terrible. But we'll get into the Big Ten West. I don't know why the number is this low, but I like Nebraska -3 against Michigan State. Nebraska is still alive on the west side of the Big Ten. They have a game against Iowa at the end of the season. They're 3-2 in the conference and 5-3 overall. They just beat Purdue. And Michigan State, obviously, getting rid of their head coach this year, getting out of that horrible contract for the allegations against him. But I won't get into that. But again, I don't know why it's only 3 points for Nebraska. I think they roll over Michigan State even on the road. So give me Nebraska -3.
All right, Dave going with Nebraska there. John, how about you? What do you want to lead us off with?
So I'm going to go completely different out of the Power 5. I'm going to go to the G5. While I'm going to go back into the Sun Belt. Georgia Southern is 2-point favorites at Texas State. Texas State just lost to Troy last week, 31-13. And Georgia Southern dominated a good Georgia State team, which actually I'm going to talk about later. And Georgia Southern's offense has been pretty solid this year. They went a couple weeks turning the ball over a lot. Quarterback Davis Brin, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he's shown a lot of flashes this year that he's improving as a passer. And looking at this Texas State team, They are 5-3, but if you look at their schedule, they've literally played nobody. And they played Troy last week, and they scored quickly in the first 2 quarters, and then after that, they couldn't muster anything offensively. So I think Texas State is still a fraud. Their offensive metrics, if you dig into them, they're in top 10 in a lot of offensive categories, but I think I think they're just a complete fraud. I think that's all based on strength of schedule. I think Georgia State is clearly the better team here. And honestly, I was pretty shocked to see how high this total is. I thought I was looking at the Washington USC total when I saw the total of this game. It's actually at 71.5. So if you like points, there's probably going to be a lot of points here, but I trust Georgia Southern here. They're clearly the better team, and they played a far superior schedule. So I love Georgia Southern in this spot.
I like a good obscure college football bet, like one of the, not top 25 matchups. But yeah, last week I tailed John on that Texas State and Troy, and that hit. So anyways, I am going to give out my first pick here. I'm going to go with Pitt plus 21.5 against Florida State. Florida State's been blowing everyone out this year. I've kind of liked going against Florida State, and they've just kept proving me wrong. But Notre Dame blew out Pitt last week. But if you look into that game a little bit more, Notre Dame had a pick six, a fumble return touchdown, and a punt return touchdown. So a lot of things just went wrong for Pitt. And don't forget, Pitt beat Louisville a couple weeks ago by 17 points. And, each week we get closer to the college football playoffs. There's just a little bit more pressure on Florida State. They're holding steady right now. But with the public all over Florida State once again, I'm just this is another one where I was kind of reading the line like I've been doing with college football. So we'll see if I could get a winner there. So Pitt plus 21.5.
Another big game that I wanted to talk about is USC and Washington, and I like over 76 in that game. Kind of self-explanatory, really. I don't think there's going to be too many people dying to take under in this game. But you got the game one in Southern California instead of Seattle, Washington, which I think certainly is a big factor why you're seeing the number high even for these teams. Two best players on the field, the two quarterbacks, arguably, 1 and 2 for the best quarterbacks in college, could potentially be 1 and 2 drafted. These defenses are bad, and these offenses are, both top 10 in points. The defenses, by every category you look at, these are just not good defenses whatsoever. And I don't really see much of a reason that we can't. I know USC has had some stumbles recently, but those were against teams that they haven't exactly fared well against here. Utah's kind of had their number. Cal gave them a scare last year too. I don't read too much into it, but one thing I could count on, is the offense is showing up. So I like the over in that game.
I also took the over in that game. So, like you said, I would never run to bet an under in this spot ever. But it definitely is a contrarian play, but I just think there's going to be a ton of points in this game.
I like in that game, I'll take a side. I don't know how Washington is only 3-point favorites. I know it's in Southern California. This is a team that just beat Cal on the road by 1. Utah came into the Coliseum and beat them. I follow USC almost as much as I do Penn State, as you guys know, and they don't have a defense whatsoever. They never have a defense. Lincoln Riley never has a defense. I think if it was Washington by 7, I would take Washington. So I like Washington -3. I think they're going to beat them pretty good. There's going to be a lot of points scored, like you guys are saying, but I think at the end of the day, Washington pulls away in the second half. So give me Washington -3.
I think it's crazy that Alex Grinch has a job. This guy has it made. The guy every year follows Lincoln Riley around like a puppy dog, and his defenses just never do anything. It's crazy. I think we spoke about it a couple weeks ago. About the USC defense. I spoke about how all summer this USC defense got so much hype over the summer that it was improved. It bolstered itself through the portal. It's been absolutely might be even worse than last year, which is hard to imagine. So
yeah, it's pretty hard to trust USC right now. If you are going to trust them, it's a hold your nose, I think. But anyways, I'll give out one more play. I'm going to go Georgia -15 against Missouri. If you look at the stats, Georgia's just a much better team. They're obviously much more talented. Georgia's 5th in total yards in the country. Missouri's 39th. They're 7th in the country converting third down percentage as compared to Missouri at 78th. And yards allowed, Georgia is 20th. Missouri is 107th. Georgia just lost the number 1 spot to Ohio State. And I still don't think Georgia's put their best game together yet. They did have a good game against Florida. But Missouri's just kind of been like exceeding expectations all year. I expect Georgia to take care of business here, kind of blow them out.
All right, I'll give one last one, and this is definitely probably a hold your nose pick of the week, but I like Clemson +3, +3.5, whatever you could get against Notre Dame. I mean, Clemson's season has not gone according to the plan, obviously being 4-4, and Notre Dame kind of about what I would feel most people would expect, 2 losses. But Clemson, I think this is probably because they're not even guaranteed to make a bowl game right now at 4-4, so they got to tighten up. And I think this is probably a good spot to do it here against Notre Dame when kind of the expectations in the season are pretty much all but gone. And Dabo is a underdog of a field goal or more is 14-7, 66.7% against the spread. I like Clemson here. I think this is probably a good spot. They also lead the nation in fumbles, which is kind of like a really weird stat for Clemson. And I mean, the fact that they're only 3-point dogs, they're 4-4, they just keep losing. And Notre Dame's doing about what's expected of them, I would say, to this point. I think it's telling you Clemson's the side here. So in a hold your nose game of the week, I'll take Clemson.
Yeah, that's an ugly one, but I definitely agree with you. I don't think I'm going to end up landing on Clemson, but if I had to pick a side, it's definitely them. It's the spot. It's just, I think, did you guys see the Dabo Sweeney radio interview from a couple days ago that kind of went viral? Apparently, he every week he has a spot on this local Clemson radio station, and a fan called in, and fans call in, and Dabo answers their questions with the radio host. And this fan called in asking why he still has the job, essentially. And then Dabo went on this 5-minute rant explaining why he doesn't listen to fans and why he doesn't listen to people that aren't in his position. Saying, "Oh, I worked my way all the way up. I used to be at the bottom of the coaching tree at one point. I worked so hard to get." He went on this ridiculous 5-minute rant. So I don't know. Maybe he might be a little fired up this week and maybe motivate his team a little bit. I don't know if Will Shipley's playing for Clemson.
Yeah, I think he's questionable.
Important. Yeah, so that I would definitely keep that in mind before taking Clemson. But either way, I still probably lean them. It's kind of surprising that this line's 3. But yeah, so I'll have one more. Another big game this weekend that a lot of people are going to be talking about. Kansas State and Texas. I've been huge on the Longhorns all year long. I was kind of disappointed when they lost to Oklahoma. I really didn't expect that. But unfortunately, I'm going to be going against them again here. I'm going to take Kansas State +4. You can get a 4.5 at some books right now. The duo of Will Howard and Avery Johnson at quarterback has been sensational. This Avery Johnson kid kind of came out of nowhere, and he's been tearing it up on the ground. He's more of like the runner of the 2 quarterbacks, and Will Howard does majority of the passing. But they rotate in and out. It's been really effective. So ever since they went into this 2 quarterback system, Kansas State's been almost unstoppable on offense. Texas, the last couple of weeks they've been sleepy. They almost lost to Houston. They had to stop Houston inside their own red zone late in the fourth quarter to tie the game, and they were like 24-point favorites in that game. And then last week, yeah, they blew out BYU. Well, BYU is awful, so I'm not really taking too much stock into that. And plus, Quinn Ewers is still going to be out, so it's going to be Malik Murphy. It's only his second career start. And when I was watching that game last week, Malik Murphy really wasn't throwing the ball down the field. So I'm kind of concerned in terms of what type of play calling this offense is going to have, because it doesn't look like they really trusted him to throw the ball down the field. And that's how you beat this Kansas State team. They're really good against the run, and their secondary is definitely their weak point. But if Murphy is not going to be attacking these weak corners and safeties, I really don't see how Texas is going to be able to keep up with this Kansas State offense. So over a field goal, I definitely lean with the Wildcats. I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised if Texas won this game, but I definitely think it's going to be a field goal type of affair either way.
All right. Guess we'll get right into week 9 already. Wow. In the NFL, I'll start out Thursday night. Dave, I'll give you a little bit of confidence here. I like the Steelers -2.5 at home against the Titans. Listen, I was against the Steelers last week and actually on the Titans. I only had 3 NFL plays and went 3-0. But so I read these two teams right last week, and now I like the Steelers here at home. Titans off a nice small underdog win against Atlanta. I know Will Levis threw 4 touchdowns, but that was the first game of his career. Atlanta didn't have any tape on him, and Atlanta's just going backwards. I said a couple podcasts ago, I've kind of been saying it the whole year, Atlanta's not a good football team. They're not. They benched Ritter, which isn't surprising, even for someone as terrible as Taylor Heineke. But I think this is a good spot for Pittsburgh here. They seem to be able to beat these caliber teams. I don't love Tennessee. I don't love Tennessee on a short week going on the road to Pittsburgh in a night game. I think I'm going to take the points here and lay them with Pittsburgh. So I like the Steelers here. I think Levis is definitely going to come back to earth this week for sure, now that Steelers have a little bit of film to look at.
Yeah, I'm not going to form an opinion on that game or give out a pick, but I will say, just following the Steelers, I heard a stat that Levis's underlying numbers against pressure were terrible. So when he had time to sit in the pocket, he was great. I mean, 2 of those Hopkins touchdowns were double moves, and he was wide open. So credit to him for hitting them. Steelers are certainly going to bring pressure. I think they're 5-0 in primetime games against rookie quarterbacks, and they have a great record, notwithstanding just regular games against rookie quarterbacks. So I'm hoping, I mean, if they don't win this, I don't know what's next for the Steelers, but I'll stay in the AFC North for my first NFL play. Give me Seattle +6, traveling across the country to take on Baltimore. People are pretty high on Baltimore after they killed the Lions, but they kind of sleptwalked through that Cardinals game, let the Cardinals back in late and only won by a touchdown. I think the Seahawks are quietly one of the best 2-loss teams in the NFL. They're 5-2, and the Ravens, I kind of equate this, because I watch a lot of Ravens games being a Steelers fan, to Penn State coming off big wins or big losses. The Ravens tend to sleepwalk through games. They're coming back from a West Coast road trip. So I don't like their ability to be able to pull away. I think this is going to be a close game. So if you just have me covering 6 points on Seattle's side, I like that. So give me Seattle +6.
So, yeah, I like that spot. Go ahead, Ryan. You can go if you want.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not so sure on that game. That's one that could go either way for me. But I'll start with a hold your nose play, and the Bears +8.5 against the Saints. It's a big number, but how could you? I don't know how you could lay that number with the Saints. They haven't looked good all year. The only time that they've shown any life was last week against the Colts defense, and the Colts defense is atrocious. And I think everyone's going to sell after that bad game from Tyson Badgen or Tyler Badgen or whatever his name is. But
Yeah, I don't know,
Tyson.
honestly.
Tyson. Yeah.
Yeah, Tyson.
Anyways, the Bears will have they still have some talent on offense with DJ Moore and Roshan Johnson's back there and Deonta Foreman and some other players that are half decent, but the Saints there's no offense there. I don't think Derek Carr is good even after last week, just one good week from them. And I just think it's kind of a good time to buy low on the Bears. So it's just a hold your nose play, but 8.5 I think is too many points.
Yeah, I like it. I'm in my survivor pool. There's 7 people left, so I'm in the air of like who I'm gonna take. I'm between the Browns and the Saints. I really can't imagine the Saints losing that game, but you're right, Ryan. I think 8.5 is a ton, and I could totally see the Saints just like this is a typical game that the Saints would lose. So I'm a little worried about that.
Yeah, I don't think they'll lose. I just see like in a low scoring game, it'll probably be like, I don't know, 20 to maybe 13 or something like that. I see it going something like that, maybe last second.
I don't hate that actually. The Bears catching 8.5.
It's a really like crappy bet, but I mean,
no, I think it's too many points, and it seems like
Yeah.
the market is all over the Saints after last week.
And it's only the total's only 41. I mean, you're catching like 9 points basically. I mean,
should be a low kind of.
I don't know. Put it this way: I'm definitely not in the business of laying points with the Saints right now.
No
way,
definitely not.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go to the AFC South. I'm gonna take the Texans -2.5 at home here against Tampa Bay. Listen, I know Tampa Bay is coming off a bye, but the Texans last week really didn't look great against Carolina. But I think a lot of people don't really realize that Carolina's defense is actually pretty good. And CJ Stroud, I mean, he's a rookie. He's going to have some bad games. And last week, he wasn't even that terrible. He just didn't make enough plays for them to win. They lost 13-12. So I really don't take too much away out of last week. Returning home, I think this is a good bounce back spot for the Texans. And to be honest, Todd Bowles is a terrible head coach. He's just one of those guys that I feel like is just meant to be a coordinator. I don't really put too much stock into those types of coaches coming off the bye. It's not like an Andy Reid or John Harbaugh type of spot. But Texans at home here, I think they'll be able to take advantage of the Bucs secondary. And yeah, I think the Texans is a good bounce back spot for them.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in actually. That was one of my plays that I bet for the week is the Texans -2.5. I think everyone kind of sold their Texans stock given the Panthers their first win, but it doesn't mean a whole lot to me. I mean, Carolina wasn't going to lose every game of the year. They were bound to beat someone. They were in, like I was saying, pretty much every game this year, at least had a lead. But if you look at the Texans, the last couple games, they've really stepped up. I mean, they hammered the Steelers at home. They beat the Saints. Now, these teams aren't great, but they're definitely not terrible. They seem to be better at home. And Tampa Bay, like I think we all kind of figured with that early start beating Minnesota and the Bears, has definitely come back to reality. Now they don't even have a winning record after starting 2-0. So they're 1-4 since then. I think the Texans will be fine here. I like that too. That's a play that I have, Texans -2.5. And then also one, because Dave touched on it, I like the Ravens actually, -5.5. There's still 5.5s out there. Even at 6, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to playing it. I wouldn't go any higher than that, but I had I take one degen shot a week in the NFL with like a parlay, and it was 6 teams. And I had the Seahawks money line last week against the Browns. They got out 14-0 or 17-0, whatever it was. And it was just a joke. I mean, the Browns with PJ Walker, and it's not even like he was really throwing them all over. The Seahawks defense is committing penalties, the most penalized team in the league, which I don't like that. Not going on the road. I mean, and the way that the Seahawks ended up winning that game is PJ Walker threw an interception off Jamal Adams' head, and it shot like 50 yards up in the sky, and someone on the Seahawks intercepted, and they only had maybe 50 yards to go, and they finally got a touchdown for the first time since the fourth quarter. I mean, I think this Seahawks team is kind of fraudulent, to be honest with you. There's really, I don't know how they won that game last week. I really don't. And as someone who had the Seahawks, that was not enjoyable to watch, because that's like the one advantage that Seattle does have is their crowd and at home. And against PJ Walker, who's just not an NFL quarterback, they were kind of dead to rights there, really. And like I said, I don't like all the penalties. Well, Dave mentioned Baltimore is coming across country. So is Seattle. So I think that kind of negates itself. And with Baltimore last week, they had that game. I know they started off a little sleepy, but they found their way. The way that Arizona backdoor covered that was just ridiculous. Nelson Aguilar, stone hands, like drops one into the Arizona guys' hands, and Arizona gets a touchdown at the end. I don't make too much of that. Baltimore did what they needed to do, but I think this is a spot where Baltimore at home should be able to. Geno Smith has been bad. I mean, let's just call it what it is. I don't know. He's come back to earth big time. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like this Seattle team very much. Every time I watch them, they don't look so hot. So I actually like Baltimore there.
I was gonna hop in and just give out the Texans, just like John and Rudy just did. So we're all on the Texans. I'm not going to
go. You want to just go 4 for 4 on the Texans?
we're just the fact that all three of us are on it. We're screwed now.
I mean, for a lot of the same reasons that you guys mentioned, I'm on it. But yeah, I mean, the Bucs were they were thoroughly outplayed by the Bills and just got 7 points gifted to them with a Josh Allen turnover, kind of a fluky one. And the Bucs secondary really bad, and they are 32nd in pass yards, or 32nd on third down percentage on defense. They're allowing teams to convert 50%. So I think the Texans get back to what they were doing before the bye week.
I'll give out a total real quick. It's tied for the second lowest total on the NFL slate this week. And give me the under in Minnesota, Atlanta, 37.5. This is going to be pretty self-explanatory. You got Josh Dobbs coming in on a short week. Coming in.
No, I think it's going to be Jaron Hall probably, unless. But regardless,
I like even more than. But anyway,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you take Kirk Cousins out of that offense, and you got one of those two quarterbacks, and Alexander Madison, Cam Akers, and Jordan Addison. I know Hawkinson's there, but I just think that's too much to overcome. Like Rudy said, I don't think the Falcons are good, but before last week,
they're definitely not good.
Before last week with the Will Levis show, people were really on the Falcons defense saying, the secondary is much improved. They're getting after the passer. So again, the way Atlanta wins, they just run the shit out of the ball, eat clock, have 3 possessions a half. So I think either way, this is going to be a very quick game with not a lot of points. I know it's the second lowest total, but you have what Minnesota's trying to overcome with their shakeup after the Cousins injury and the way Atlanta wants to play, and I don't mind Atlanta's defense. Also, too, be remiss, Heineke's coming in, but he can score points, but he also turns over the ball. So I think there's going to be a lot of empty possessions there as well. I like the under.
Yeah, real quick, just since my last NFL play that I wanted to share is on this game. I believe it or not, I actually like the Vikings quite a bit. +4.5, +5. There's still +5s out there on Caesars and PointsBet, but even 4.5, that's fine. Who are the Falcons number one to be laying 4.5, 5 points to anyone at this point? And it's also I know Taylor Heineke he probably better than Ritter, but I mean, if he was that good, he wouldn't have went from Carolina to Washington to Atlanta. Those are 3 teams that haven't had a good quarterback in God knows how long. He was the second lowest graded quarterback last year, only ahead of Zach Wilson, and that was out of 42 quarterbacks, I think I read. I mean, Taylor Heineke is not good. So Taylor Heineke, whoever, this team should not be laying 5 points. And I know there's a lot unproven with this Jaron Hall kid and whatever, but he does like to run, and Minnesota hasn't been running the ball very well with Madison. I would know because he's been on my fantasy team, and I don't think I've played him since like week 2. But if anything, just like I mentioned with Will Levis last week, and another reason why I bet on the Titans is these quarterbacks making their first start that aren't, first round picks and stuff like that. They don't have the hype. Teams don't take them maybe as seriously. And also you don't have really game film on these guys. So, in a game that is supposed to be low scoring, only 37.5 over under right now. And Atlanta just has not been good. I mean, Minnesota's at least been making strides here since their rough start to the season. I think Minnesota stays within the number, and it really wouldn't shock me to see Atlanta lose this game. Atlanta's not a good football team. I've been saying this for weeks, and no one believes me, but here we are. So losing to Will Levis in his first start, I don't think that's very good. So give me the Vikings in a very, very shitty game, but I'll take them.
It's not your dog of the week. Yeah.
Nope.
I mean, I like that. I mean, just because I watched Jaron Hall in college, he played for BYU, and he was pretty good. I mean, him and Puka Nacua was a lethal combo.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, Hall, I think, is better than what people think. And this is just a classic, market overreaction. The market sees that Kirk Cousins hurt, so they downgrade Minnesota like a crazy amount of points, and rightfully so. I mean, Kirk Cousins is really good. But like you said, I think Atlanta is just a fraud. And I have no idea what they're doing with Bijan Robinson. His usage has been so strange this year. I mean, they took the guy, I don't know, 7th overall. I can't remember, but it was in the top 10.
Yeah.
And they're not using him. They're using Tyler Algier, who isn't bad. But, I mean, just the fact that they took him so high, they're like not using him properly. It's strange. So, I definitely lean with Minnesota with the points.
I don't know why they're not using Bijan either. I took his rushing prop last week, like total carries. It was like 12.5, and he ended up with 11. I mean, he would have got there if they were winning the game, but they had to throw at the end. But they just haven't been using him.
Is everyone good on NFL until we do Dog of the Week?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm good for now.
All right. I guess I'll start out. My Dog of the Week is actually going to be college, and it's going to be USC money line to beat Washington here. I like USC a lot this week. Washington, like I was talking about with the over, this isn't a team that has a good defense. This is exactly a spot that I think USC could get right here. Washington also isn't familiar with USC or Caleb Williams. They haven't played since pre-pandemic. I think 2019 or 2018 was the last time. And I mean, USC catching over a field goal at home here. Like, I get it. Washington's good. They could score a lot of points, but they don't have a defense. They don't even have really a competent defense. Washington can't really run the football either. I mean, USC catching over a field goal here at home, I think is like kind of ridiculous, to be honest with you, because when you have two terrible defenses and two quarterbacks that could light it up, I mean, to me, this is kind of a coin flip game. And if someone still said that USC should maybe be favorite here at home, I probably wouldn't fault you. And I think USC playing this game at home, not just because it's at home, but because, like I said earlier, not being in Seattle where it's starting to get cold and stuff like that, this being in Southern California, I think that benefits USC here. And Washington hasn't been indestructible here. I mean, when you saw against Oregon, it was definitely a 50-50 type of game. They've been in some close games. That terrible showing that they had a couple weeks ago, 15-7, they didn't score on offense. So sure, they're winning these games, but they're not invincible. And USC getting over a field goal at home here, I think, is the bottom of the market here. If they don't cover this game, maybe they go into free fall mode. But I'm giving USC a chance here. I actually really like them to win this game outright. So I'm going to College for my dog of the week.
You took Washington football in NCAA for your dog of the week. I will take Washington in the NFL for my dog of the week. They are 3-point. The commies. They're 3-point dogs against the Patriots. Patriots are one of the worst teams in the NFL. I think this is a market overreaction to the Commanders selling. They got out of 2 contracts of guys they weren't going to sign on defense, and they didn't like Chase Young going into the season. They didn't like his work ethic. He hasn't panned out as the number 2 overall pick. And quite frankly, I don't think you need those pieces on defense to have Mac Jones hand you the ball via turnover. I don't know why, what the Patriots have done to deserve that kind of number. To me, this should be a 1-point pick 'em game either way. I really like the Commanders' chance to beat the Patriots, and they're fine on offense. And if they just pretend they're playing the Eagles, the Commanders would be one of the best teams in the NFL. So, to me, the Washington NFL
for whatever reason, the Eagles don't know how to put Washington down.
Sam Howell turns into Peyton Manning against the Eagles for some reason. But anyways, I'm going to do exactly what you did, Dave. That's my dog of the week, the Commanders. The Patriots have no offensive talent whatsoever, and all the receivers are hurt. They're basically down to Juju Smith-Schuster and Demario Douglas, a rookie.
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've never even heard of him until
I don't even know who that is.
A couple weeks ago.
That's who they're down to, Demario Douglas and Juju. And those are both not who you want.
Yeah, Kendrick Bourne done for the year. That's too bad. I like Kendrick Bourne. He was having a nice year too.
Yeah, and at least the Commanders have some offensive weapons. They got pretty decent running backs and good receivers. So I don't know why this line's like that either. Give me the Commanders plus 136 on the money line.
All right, John.
All right, so as the college guy, I obviously have to go college here for my dog of the week. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I'm going with Georgia State outright. They're 5.5-point dogs. I think they're going to win this game at home. They're playing at home against undefeated James Madison. Listen, James Madison, they've had a nice season so far. Obviously, 8-0 is very impressive. But if you take a look at who they've played, let me quickly just go over who they played. Well, to start, a couple weeks ago, they defeated Georgia Southern 41-13, which was pretty impressive. But the thing I took away from that game is Georgia Southern doesn't run the ball at all. So James Madison's weak link on defense is their rush defense. And Georgia Southern runs the ball 58% of the time. They're very explosive on the ground. Granger and Carroll are terrific on the ground. Marcus Carroll is averaging almost 6 yards a carry. Darren Granger is averaging almost 6.5 yards per carry as the quarterback for the Panthers. So taking a look at JMU's schedule, I'm looking at they've beaten Bucknell, Virginia, and we've seen, Virginia beat North Carolina 2 weeks ago, but they've been bad other than that. They beat Troy. Troy was a pretty good win on the road, but they won 16-14. So they really didn't blow them out of the water. So I won't take too much away from that game. Then they beat Utah State by 7. Utah State's not very good. They beat South Alabama in late September when they were crippled with injuries by 8. I mentioned Georgia Southern. They beat Marshall 20-9. That was an ugly game on the road, and Marshall's not very good. And then they beat Old Dominion last week by 3 as 21-point favorites. I mean, I took James Madison in my survivor pool, and they almost blew it for me. But, overall, Georgia State, they're coming off a loss. They're going to be home. They're going to be all pumped up at home, I think. I think this offensive rushing attack is going to exploit James Madison's defense. And obviously, I'm not really too surprised to see the public all over James Madison here, being the 8-0 team. But I think Georgia State's going to win this game. I definitely love them to cover the 5.5 as well.
All right. Sounds good to me. Well, with that, guys, we'll be right back, and we'll get you our show best bets. You have been listening to Season 3 of the Rudy G Bets Inside the Lines podcast. We'll be right back after this with our show best bets. All right, guys, and we are back with our show best bets for the week. Dave, we'll start it out with you. Let's see if you can catch that fire again.
I don't know if being off for so long has playing tricks on my eyes, but I think this is one of the easiest games I've seen all season. I know it's one of those stupid overseas games, so maybe that throws it into effect. The Chiefs are only 1.5-point favorites against the Dolphins. Give me the Chiefs as my best bet. The Dolphins are not good. They haven't beat a team with a winning record. Like, we could go through their wins to this point in the season, but it's not anyone good. And then the two times they did play good teams, they got kind of boat raced by the Eagles and the Bills. And this sort of happens every year with this new look Dolphins team. Like, they come out in the start of the year, they don't let the other team in the beginning of the year in Miami have any shade on the sidelines. They run all over teams. They look great. And then it starts to get a little bit colder out. Games start to get a little bit tighter. And the Dolphins aren't putting up 70 points a game. And I can tell you the same thing's going to happen this year. Like, they got the Chiefs, and then they have a bunch of easy games, and they finish with the Cowboys, Ravens, and Bills. So we'll find out who the Dolphins are towards the end of the year. But at only 1.5 points, I know Kansas City just lost to Denver. That was really ugly. Mahomes was battling the flu, and maybe that's like built into now he has to go travel to Germany. But at only 1.5 points, and the Dolphins team hasn't beat anyone this year, give me the world champs. Give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, I have a play in this game as well, but I'm probably in agreement with you there, Dave. I do like the Chiefs, but I'm going with the under 50.5 in this game. The public's going to be all over the over. Two great offenses here, but really, if you look into it, the Chiefs defense is playing great this year. They're second in the league in points allowed, and they're second in pass yards allowed. And the Dolphins are supposed to be getting Jalen Ramsey back this week, if I'm not mistaken. It's also a London game, which I'm sure that's kind of factored into
Germany, I think, right?
Germany game,
Germany.
and Jalen Ramsey was back last week.
Last week, yeah.
This is going off the rails, but I'll let
Last
you finish.
week.
I'm just busting you.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a little bit more defense than people expect. The Chiefs' offense hasn't been, super explosive to this point, and yeah, I mean, the Eagles were able to hold the Dolphins in check. Really, it would have been 7 offensive points if they didn't gift them 10 points off of turnovers. But yeah, that's my best bet, under 50.5. I think that's too high.
All right, John, how about you? What do you got for us?
All right, so I got 2 this week. First off, I'm going to kick it off with LSU +3. LSU coming off a bye after destroying Army. I think it was 6. I think I had the over in that game, and they got it over themselves. I think they scored 62 points. But listen, straightforward. I do not trust this Alabama offense whatsoever. I know LSU's defense stinks, and I know it's against any formidable opponent. They've been absolutely shredded, but I don't care. I got Jaden Daniels on my side here. I will trust him any day of the week, 24/7. It doesn't any time of the year against Jalen Milroe, who I still don't trust. Yes, Jalen Milroe has now started to show some flashes of his arm strength and his accuracy and his deep ball the last couple of weeks, notably against Tennessee. I'll say the Alabama second half comeback against Tennessee was impressive, but LSU here, 3 points, I think is a joke. And if Alabama wants to make this a track meet, that's fine by me. I will take LSU's offense all day, and catching 3 here, I think it's a no-brainer. The only thing that scares me a little bit is it's very hard to beat Nick Saban 2 years in a row. I think I saw some ridiculous stat. There's only like 5 coaches in his entire coaching career have only beaten him 2 years in a row. So Brian Kelly's trying to become, I think, the sixth coach that's beaten him twice in a row. But I just think LSU is just honestly, I might even think LSU is the better team. And the fact that they're a 3-point dog here, I'll happily take that. And my second best bet is Arizona plus 2.5. There were some threes out there. They're not there anymore, but I don't care. I think they're going to win the game outright. They're at home against UCLA. I don't know who's playing quarterback for UCLA. Chip Kelly has been playing games with the media the last couple of weeks about that. He kind of just doesn't reveal anything, and then when game day comes around, he just rolls somebody out there. But regardless, I don't care who's playing quarterback for UCLA because Noah Fafita, since he took over for Jaden DeLaura, has been unbelievable. He's completing 77% of his passes. He's got 11 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. This Arizona offense is electric. And I know UCLA is pretty decent defensively, but I don't care. It's the same type of mentality I have with the LSU-Alabama game. I just think I trust Arizona's offense way more than UCLA's. And I think if UCLA has a good offensive day and they want to get into a track meet, that's fine. I think Arizona will outduel them at the end of the day. And I'm glad this game is right after LSU Alabama because honestly the college football scheduling for TV this week is kind of weird. But give me Arizona all day here. They're getting 2.5, but I think they win the game outright.
All right. The first one, I'll go NFL first. I think this is going to be my first NFL total that I've used as a best bet here, but I'm going with over 43.5 between the Panthers and the Colts here. I know the Panthers offense hasn't really been scoring a ton of points, but if you look at the other side of the equation, and you look at the Colts results from this year. So game 1, there was 52 points. Game 2, there was 51 points. Game 3, there was 41, and that was a lower scoring game. There was 52, 39, 57. This one, they let Cleveland and PJ Walker just score 39. Then they just let the Saints, who can't score either, 38 points. Carolina, after a win, I think they're going to have some confidence. And while they did only score 15 last week, they were moving the ball, kind of sacks and things like that got them. But this Colts defense has just kind of fallen off a cliff really here. And if you let PJ Walker and then the Saints score 38 and 39, I don't see any reason that Carolina can't at least get to 20 to 24 range here. And that's probably all you're going to need really for this over. So I think this one definitely gets over. I don't really see a reason that it doesn't. Just on the fact that I think the Colts defense is pretty bad. They've been in, like I just detailed, they've been in a shootout almost every week. So give me the over here between Carolina and the Colts. And for my college best bet, I'm going to preface this first before we get into it, but I didn't actually bet this at this number, but I still would. So I want to make that clear. I'm going with LSU money line against Alabama. I think it's like plus 130, plus 140, whatever it is now. But this opened, and I could not wait. I was licking my chops. This past week, LSU was getting 7, and I could not wait. I took them plus 7, hammered it, took them plus 198 money line, and LSU is only getting 28% of the bets. So every sharp dollar on this game is on LSU. From 7 to 3, are you kidding me? That is a massive, massive move. LSU, like John detailed, yeah, they beat them last year, but why can't they beat them this year? And if you go back and look at Saban's history against LSU, they haven't beaten them a ton, but last year was like the first time that LSU actually, one of their wins versus Bama was at home. Back in 2011, they beat them in Tuscaloosa, the national championship year. They beat them in Tuscaloosa. And then 2 seasons ago, when LSU was in complete shambles as 30-point underdogs, they had a chance to win the game. They got stopped at like the 1 yard line or something as 30-point dogs. LSU's covered, I think, 4 out of the last 5 meetings now. They won last year. And what it comes down to, I think, is LSU just has the better top tier talents. I mean, Malik Neighbors is playing the best out of any receiver. Even his stats are even better than Marvin Harrison Jr.'s. I think he's the second best receiver. And I think Jaden Daniels is the second best quarterback in college football. And when you have those 2 players, you have Harold Perkins on decent defense, you have Mason Smith. I'm not that worried about LSU's defense here because everyone seems to think, oh, Alabama's back. Like, obviously, because everyone's rushing to bet Alabama. This line's not going up past 3 here. And if you look at Alabama, like their offense, they're still not scoring that many points. They've gotten over 25 points like 1 time in the last 6 games. And that was against Tennessee, where they slept walk in the first half. They didn't do anything. Against Ole Miss, they didn't do anything. And if they fall behind, I guarantee you, if they fall behind and they play a first half like they did versus Ole Miss or Tennessee, they're going to get boat raced because they're not going to catch up to this LSU offense. LSU's offense scores the most points in college football. They're number 1 in passing. They're number 1 in so many categories. I don't think Alabama, honest to God, and this might be crazy. I think LSU is going to murder Alabama. I really do. I think they're going to crush them. I don't believe in Alabama at all. But if you don't want to take my word for it, the LSU fan, that's fine. But you could at least take John, who really has no emotional attachments to either team here. But I think LSU is just honestly the better team. They have the higher end talent. And I don't see them slowing down the number 1 offense in college football here. So, and if they get behind, they're not catching up. So give me LSU money line. I don't want the 3 points. Fuck them. You won't need them. So those are my 2 best plays this week. But with that, guys, oh, sure.
No, just a quick note on that also. I think LSU is pacing to outscore the 2019 national championship team in terms of yardage, points, yards per play. So it's kind of crazy when you think about that. With that 2019 arguably is one of the best college football teams ever. So it's kind of scary when you're talking about those offensive numbers. So
yeah, we'll get into our closing remarks here. Dave, you're normally our leadoff hitter for closing remarks. So what do you got for us this week?
Ooh, way to tee me up, leadoff hitter, because I was scrolling Twitter as Rudy was pumping up LSU there, and I saw that the World Series was going on, and I was like, oh, the World Series is going on. Like, I totally forgot. Who cares? So leadoff hitter, yeah, and there's apparently a no-hitter, like, through 5 innings, but I think, like, a Maction game or a Thursday Night Football game would trounce ratings for the World Series right now. There's no one watching that. Also, I want it known that my original best bet was Rudy to take the Tigers as his best bet, but I couldn't get odds on it. So, but I like what Rudy's saying. Like, he knows the team the best. And if John's going to take him too, with not a lot of skin in the game, it's hard to look away from that. But if you know Rudy and you've listened to the pod, you knew that was coming from a mile away.
Hey, I haven't been taking them every week. I really haven't been. This is right in the wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta laugh there. Rudy's good for every other week taking either the Panthers or LSU.
Hey, I took the Panthers last week. I only had 3 plays in the NFL, and the Panthers did it. And I had their money line in my big plus 1,100 parlay. So
you get credit for that.
Finally win.
Yeah.
So give a little congrats to the Panthers. The Eagles only have 1 loss. Speaking of the Eagles,
well, you better watch it
we
because you got a big one
matchup this weekend. For those of you who don't know, John is a Cowboys fan.
The
Cowboys. Sorry.
Oh, no.
I don't know if you're going to be flashing that too much on Sunday, but we shall see. The best team will win. So I'm going to be a little bit nervous. I'm always nervous for Eagles Cowboys because it means so much to me. So holding my breath, but hopefully they don't disappoint me.
Yeah, Ryan, I don't want to wager actual money, but I'm willing to do a friendly wager in terms of maybe next week on the podcast. If the Cowboys win, I'll wear Eagles green, okay? But if the Cowboys win, I won't make you wear a jersey.
Ryan's
But
got to print off a cowboy star and have it taped to his shirt, visible on the screen.
Something like either that or you got to wear navy or something like navy,
All right.
navy and silver or something. Because
I'll do that.
if you're down for that.
You guys got to print off the logo and tape it to your shirt and in screen.
I don't obviously own anything Cowboys, but I could
Well, that's
print
why
out
I
a
said you
star.
got to have the logo visible. Put it in your background or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, fine.
Logo
fine.
bat.
I'll print it out. I'll wear
Deal.
it.
All right, I'm looking forward to that now. Are you guys doing straight up?
Yeah, money line.
Yeah,
All
straight
right.
up.
All right.
Straight up's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, like, no jokes aside, just like this is the week for the Cowboys. They need to win this game. I mean, I know it's in Philly. It's a tough environment to play. The Eagles are good. I mean, I'm not denying that, but after their awful performance in San Francisco, like Dak Prescott, like he needs to show up. He's played a lot better the last 2 weeks, so he's got to continue that momentum. Otherwise, I'm gonna have a lot of doubts about the Cowboys moving forward if they lay an egg. I mean, maybe if they lose by a field goal, I won't feel too terrible. But like if they get blown out here, I'm gonna be pretty depleted for the rest of the year. So this is definitely a huge game. So
I got bad vibes on the Eagles. Do you see Hurts's press conference today, Ryan?
No.
A reporter asked him if his knee hurt, and he ended the whole press conference. He's like, "Oh," because he was hobbling against the Commanders or something, and he was like, "Oh," he asked it so nicely. He's like, "Jalen, how's the knee feeling? We feeling any better?" And Jalen Hurts just got up and ended the press conference. So no good, Jalen Hurts.
I mean,
it wasn't just a stupid question.
Huh?
That's a legitimate question, and he asked it
but
nicely.
of course it hurts. I mean, he's fine though. He's not showing up on the injury reports.
Did he wear a brace last week? I didn't watch that game.
I think. I mean, it didn't matter. He carved up. He carved up.
My official pick, Cowboys, because of the Hurts press conference.
Wow.
Press conference play of the week.
Yeah. I'll remember that.
Yeah. My closing remarks. The New York Rangers, the flag or the blanket flag, whatever, hasn't made its full appearance. It's still slightly behind, but a couple more losses from Carolina, and I think that'll get ripped off the wall. But the New York Rangers, I just want to say 7-2, one of the best records in the NHL, kicking ass and taking names, swept a 5-game road trip for the first time in franchise history, almost 100 years. So that was pretty good. No playoff hangover for them. They're going right for the throat. I like it. Carolina got their first win. They made me some money last week. And LSU, yeah, I just can't wait to watch them kick the shit out of Alabama. I'm trying to think. Maybe like my second or third most confident I've ever been at LSU beating Alabama. First would definitely be the year when they won the national championship, and they were, I think, 6-point underdogs in that game.
Were they really?
I think so.
That's insane.
It was five or six. Yeah, it was more than this.
Well, it's because Bama had so much talent too. I mean, they had Tua, they had Waddle. I mean, they had studs. I mean, too. I mean, not gonna lie, but I mean, that's so crazy to think about that.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, should be a fun weekend ahead of college and NFL. We got some pretty good games. But with that, guys, yeah, Dave, Ryan, John, Rudy, signing off for the week, and we'll catch you next time. And also, sure, everyone's going to be watching regardless, but Eagles, Cowboys, now the viewers have a little more. We have a little logo bet next week, so
go Birds.
We'll see. Ryan might not show up if the Eagles lose, to be honest with you. He might take the week off, so.
Yeah, we'll see.
Don't hold him to it. All right, guys, take care.